So today I have a realistic LAB-340 belt drive turntable, which I picked up for the princely sum of $10. So the seller stated that it needed work, but did not specify what that work was, so let's find out what's wrong. So this is interesting. So I've had turntables with scratched lids before, but this one is pretty interesting. It's scratched in such a sort of regular way. It almost seems like it was done on purpose, but this might be a good excuse to do a video about polishing a turntable lid. So the turntable has all of its pieces and it runs. I actually checked the speed and it wasn't too bad. It has all of its parts, so I'm not sure what the problem is exactly. So maybe it's how it sounds. And it definitely does sound bad, and it could be in part the stylus, so I'll check that. But it also has a very bad hum, whether the ground wire is connected or not. So I should have looked at this first, but this turntable has a built-in phono preamp, which you can switch off or on. So if I use a phono input, like I just did, it should be in the out position, but it's actually in the in position. So I'm going to retest it and see if there's a difference. So if the switch to phono preamp out, you're going to connect it to the phono input of your amplifier, and there was a nice hum there. With phono preamp in, you can connect it to any other input on your amplifier. Could be a tape loop or CD or video or whatever. And either way, it had a hum, and connecting up the ground wire seemed to have no effect in either position. So I'm going to take this apart and take out the screws around the perimeter here to get to the underside. You can leave the feet such as they are attached. The bottom will now come right off. And curiously, this hum exists whether the turntable is actually plugged into the wall or not. So it's not just the hum from the AC line, but from something else. So when I fiddle with the RCA cables, I also get some scratchiness and interference. So I'm thinking it might be these rather than simply the ground wire itself that's causing the problem. So as a replacement, I'm going to take this cable that was used on another turntable, although the connectors on one end are badly corroded, so I'm going to cut them off to use to solder to this turntable. So as you'll see, the problem with these wires is that there aren't actually two wires inside. There's actually one wire and then a braided shield that runs around the outside. So I'm going to gently cut through this to reveal that inside. Okay, so I've got the central wire, but then I have this braided wire around the outside. So I need to turn the braided wire into the ground wire and then strip this one back to be the signal wire. So I've got all these strands off to one side. So I'm going to twist them around into a more solid wire. I'm going to strip back the center conductor. This looks to be about a 28 gauge wire right there. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so that looks good. So now I'm going to tin the wires to prepare them to be soldered. I'm going to unsolder the old wires. So this middle tab right here, which is screwed in, is acting like a heat sink. So it's harder to get the solder to melt here because it's absorbing the heat, and this could also melt the plastic. So I'm going to unscrew this to complete the desoldering. So I've removed this for better access. I'm going to open up the holes here. So I have a hole for the new wire to go into, and I have a desoldering tool here to get it out of the hole if necessary. This actually works better when you support your work properly with a soldering stand. I'm going to start with the middle wires since they're a little harder, so I have it oriented correctly. So the red one is over here, the white one is over here. So I have them poking through here, and since they're already tinned, it should be a pretty simple matter to add some more solder, get them where they're supposed to be. And the red wire and the white wire, or in this case yellow. I have a completely new ground wire, which along with the wire from the spindle of the platter, I've soldered into the last position. So replacing the RCA cables and the ground wire seems to have helped considerably with the Hummmm, but it's still not gone entirely. So this turntable doesn't have any shielding underneath to shield the tone arm wires from the outside world. And I noticed that when it was sitting on my metal workbench, the hum was worse than if I moved it, as I have here, to a plastic table. So it is now connected up. It's connected to an amplifier, and I'm going to turn up the volume. So you may be able to hear that. You can hear the hum, but that's at about 12 o'clock on the volume knob, which is higher normally than you'd listen to it. So this is maybe 2 o'clock. You can hear what the hum sounds like. But I think that this is probably within sort of normal levels for this turntable. Even higher quality turntables are going to have some hum. So I think we can say that that is going to be okay. So this is a picture of the stylus under a microscope, and it actually looks pretty good. What you're looking for are some little shiny parts right near the tip that indicate wear, and this actually looks fine, I think. But another issue I've noticed is one similar to that Sony PST2 that I repaired, but if you look at the cartridge, it looks like it is not parallel to the surface of the record. It's like it's tilting down and to the right, actually just like that Sony was. So it's hard to see, but there is actually a screw on the bottom of this head shell. So with a short screwdriver, I think I can get under there and loosen it, see if I can wiggle it a little bit to one side. So I'm surprised that that actually worked, but loosening that screw did give it enough wiggle room to tilt the cartridge, actually tilt the head shell and the cartridge. I think I overcompensated a little bit and have to tilt it back the other way. So I think I'd have to say that this turntable now sounds fine. Not fantastic, but the way it's supposed to. So I'd be lying if I said this was my favorite turntable that I've ever worked on, but it does what it's supposed to do, and it sounds pretty decent now. So the fact I was able to fix it with just some parts I had lying around, and even the stylus was in good condition, makes this a pretty good $10 investment. And would you look at that dust cover now? So please watch my other video on polishing dust covers, and thanks for watching this one.